Hey, what's up, y'all? This is William, the Permaculture Consultant, and today is another Permaculture Q&A where you leave comments down below in the comment section and I answer them on video. So if you have a Permaculture Q&A question, then leave it down below in the comment section with the hashtag Permaculture Q&A at the beginning of it, and maybe it'll be featured in a future video. Also, if you need permaculture on-site consultations, if you want me to come to your property and tell you what to do and when to do it, then hit the links down below in the description. Also, June 8th is a East Texas Homesteaders meetup. I'm going to be there. The Texas boys are going to be there. Look forward to seeing you guys there. All the details are down below in the description. And now let's get started with the video. Alrighty, first question is from Turbo Warp. Northwest of Fort Worth, wondering about tree tubes. Have sheep, cattle, and lots of deer trying to grow mulberry from cuttings, jujube grafts on rootstock, and thornless honey locust from seed, plus apple, peach, pear. Will they protect my tree starts, seedling, sapling, or will trees fry in 110-degree summer days? Sheep and deer usually aren't in apple, peach, plum, and pear orchards. Alrighty. Yes, the tree tubes will be fine in those temperatures, I believe. I think they have different colors and different shades depending on where you are in the world. But you might have to double check me on that. But that's not going to protect... I don't see how that's going to protect it from the sheep or the cattle or anything like that. It seems like they could just be able to like knock the tree tube over and then eat whatever they wanted to from there. But what I would recommend doing is, well, get some of Dad's bone sauce. It's made out of bones basically, and you apply it to any wooden surfaces like a tree, and it keeps away deer and rabbits for sure. And it should last for like 25 years if you apply it to a wooden surface. It's the best thing to keep deer and rabbits and all that type of stuff away. And it's better than, like, we couldn't grow trees in North Carolina until Dad started making the bone sauce, and then we could start growing trees, and now they have a full-blown food forest and an orchard and all that type of stuff. A lot of people have bought it, a lot of people have used it. There's been great success with the bone sauce, so that I would try that first. Next, I would maybe plant your trees. Like this tree right here has a tree tube. Sorry, that's the reason I came over here. This tree right here has a tree tube, and it did just fine. I'm not too far from you, and this tree was much shorter whenever it was grown. And this actually protects the bark, or whenever this was planted. This was much shorter when it was planted. But this actually protects the trunk of the tree from the direct, intense Texas sun until you have a surrounding ground cover that can do the same. And it worked just fine. A lot of the trees here actually had these on at one point. We did take most of them off at some point. I don't know why this one was left on. But yeah, you should be fine. But as far as like keeping them out, bone sauce is something I would keep out. Also, I would maybe plant the trees in a way where you can easily put a fence on either side of the tree, so that way your animals won't have access to it. Electrified netting might be the best way to go. And yeah, I would think of more of a hard barrier in the bone sauce versus relying on just a tree tube, because that would easily knock over. Also, if you have high winds while they're in the pasture, then you're kind of screwed there. So hopefully that was helpful. I'll leave a link down below for the bone sauce if anybody's interested. This next one's from Conrad Homestead. Y'all check them out. They have a YouTube channel. They have pretty cool content. Pretty cool people over there. I'm really liking this Q&A type format. I am learning a lot from it. You use the word exudates quite a bit. Could you please expound on this? I almost made it to Bowling Green, Kentucky to see you at the Homestead conference there. We are only 1 hour away. Do you plan to go to that event next time it's on? Do you have any other events on your calendar that may be in our area? We are 1 hour northwest of Bowling Green. Thanks again. Yes, I will be back, and I will also be back to the Land Festival. I believe that's in October as well. So yeah, I'll see you guys. The Back to the Land Festival is in Tennessee, not Kentucky. And the Kentucky Sustainable Living one is in Kentucky. So there's that. But as far as exudates go, exudates are the sugars that plants excrete down from their roots. All plants do this, I think. I don't know any plants that don't do this, I'll put it that way. But they send sugars down into the soil, and those sugars are feeding the bacteria and the fungi and all the microbes that are in the soil. And in that sugar is a recipe of what this plant needs. So it's like, okay, in exchange for this sugar, this exudate, I need some iron and some manganese. So go get those for me and bring them back. So the microbe gets the sugar, eats that up, gets the recipe at the same time, goes and gets what the plant needs and brings it back. But at that point, the plant still can't absorb what that microbe has gotten for the plant. That microbe then has to be eaten by a predator and then pooped out before this plant benefits. So it's called the soil food web. Check out Dr. Elaine Ingham. She is, I believe, the founder of the majority of soil biology and stuff like that. That's where I learned, her courses are where I learned most of this stuff. Not permaculture per se, but the soil biology aspect of it. That's where I learned most of this stuff, is from Dr. Elaine Ingham. But yeah, check her out. That's what exudates are. It's basically sugar with a little recipe list of what this plant needs. The microbe goes and gets it, brings it back, gets eaten by a predator, and then the plant benefits from it. And we'll actually expand a little bit further into the whole soil food web a little bit later on in this video. I sneaked a peek and saw one of the later questions. This next one is from Carrie Robertson. What are the best edible nitrogen fixers? Well, that's just personal preference on your part, and you probably eat more nitrogen fixers than you think. Like pole beans and bush beans, those are both nitrogen fixers. Goji berries, those are nitrogen fixers. Also mesquite trees, those are nitrogen fixing trees. The pods off of them, you can grind up the pods and turn them into a gluten-free alternative flour and stuff like that. Those can be eaten. There are tons and tons and tons of nitrogen fixers out there. Peanuts, for example, some of you might love peanuts. Peanuts are a nitrogen fixer. Most leguminous species are nitrogen fixers. And there's a ton of species out there that are definitely edible. So just, I would just do a quick search real quick and say, like, what are some edible nitrogen fixers for growing zone such and such? And you'll get a longer list than you probably expected. So hopefully that was helpful. Now we have one from user GZ2EB5PX3H. Another Google generated username, I think. The only reason I would ask this question in relation to permaculture is not wanting to use pesticides. I live in upstate New York, and every year at this time we have an amazing amount of gnats that make it almost impossible to work outside. I understand it was similar in North Carolina for certain periods of the year. I grow some of our own food as well as large amount of garlic for sale. I do compost, sorry. But I don't believe the compost has anything to do with this problem because they are everywhere on over 100 acres of land. Despite begging for help, or desperately begging for help, do you possibly have a fix? Dang, can't read today. Okay, so gnats on that large of a scale, you're right, compost doesn't make, I think compost would help because you could attract the predators that would eat the gnat larvae before it actually hatched. So compost on a smaller scale, I believe would help, but on 100 acres, I think the route I would go is setting up as many bird and bat habitats as possible. Set up a ton of bat habitats for sure. Those are pretty simple to do, pretty simple to make, and I think they're pretty cheap if you do end up purchasing them. But bird houses, but as far as birdhouses, I would try to attract martins. Like Greg Judy, he attracts martins specifically for face flies, but they do a massive dent in the population. Maybe even guineas. Guineas might help as well if you got like a large flock, and I would get maybe triple the amount of guineas that you think, because they're going to eventually all die down to zero. So maybe a flock of guineas would help, but martin houses, I say specifically because they do just put a huge dent in the face fly population, and that might trickle down on to gnats if there's just an abundant food source all of a sudden. But they're a little bit trickier to keep because you need houses that are specific to martins, and they need to be like 20 or 25 feet in the air or something like that. And then you have to make sure no other birds take that house while the martins are gone. So, but I would put up, like I said, as many bat and bird houses as possible. And they don't have to be specifically martin houses, but you know, it's definitely a bird that stands out. So hopefully that helps. Another route you could do is just like a full body net. You can maybe go that route. They also sell the ones with the hoods. You could get like a bee suit or something like that with maybe a finer mesh around the hood. That might help. But yeah, I understand it. It's especially frustrating when they get in your eyes. It's just like an instant like fury right there. Daigledj, maybe. DAIGLEDJ. Maybe it's an acronym. When preparing an area for following year planting, what is the advantage or issues avoided by using aged versus fresh wood chips as mulch? I've tried both, and the fresh chips seem to develop much more in thicker fungal networks, but not sure what other things may be at play that I can't see with the naked eye. Usually I've done walkways and future planting areas with fresher chips and reserved aged chips for remulching already planted areas or adding to compost. So the difference between fresh chips and aged chips, fresh chips still have the tree's immune system attached to them. So they're going to fight off any of the microbes that are going to start breaking down the wood, because that's their job. It's part of the immune system. So they have like the antibodies, the pesticides, everything that they need, the antifungal agents, all that stuff that the tree needs to stay healthy and survive. That lasts for quite a while in the wood chips. Now, quite a while could depend on the type of tree that you cut down, and also your climate and stuff like that. If you take a handful of your fresh wood chips and you smell it and it doesn't smell like fresh cut wood anymore, then the immune system's gone. You can start breaking it down with your microbes. If you take a whiff and it still smells like fresh cut tree, then it's not ready to use. If you're using what's called like fresh cut wood or fresh cut chips from the landscape supply yards or anything like that, then it's aged enough, it's off gassed enough, the immune system is gone. It just hasn't gone through like 2 or 3 years of aging like the aged or double ground hardwoods have gone through. So hopefully that helps and makes it a little bit clear the difference between fresh and aged chips. Next one's from Rocket Pipe TV. I'm considering smothering bindweed, the only thing still growing after covering my pasture with wood chips, using sorghum Sudan grass. I plan on growing them to full height and then covering the affected area with 5 to 10 inches of the cut down stalks. Any other ideas are highly appreciated. That sounds like a good plan to me, or you could just reapply wood chips to that pasture area. I'm not sure why I don't know if you're turning it into a food forest or what. You could either, depending on what you're trying to do with it, you could reapply wood chips, make sure it's gone through like, chicken bedding and stuff like that first. Make sure an animal has pooped on it pretty well, and then reapply it, and that should help change the soil biology. If you wanted to, like the Sudan grass is not a bad idea at all. The only thing, whenever you cut it down, the only thing that I would make sure I would do is run it through a mower or a shredder or some sort of thing that'll break it down even finer, so that way it breaks down faster. Otherwise, you run the risk of it like being quite a while before you start growing pasture, if that's what you're wanting to get out of it. But hopefully that helps. The next one is from Elizabeth Mensa. How to get rid of nematodes. You don't necessarily want to get rid of nematodes. Remember earlier I was talking about like the microbes can't give the nutrients to the plant until they've been eaten by a predator. Well, nematodes are one of those predators. And in fact, the predator of nematodes are bigger nematodes. That scene in like Star Wars where there's always a bigger fish, they're underwater, and then the big fish chasing them gets eaten by a bigger fish. That's the same thing with nematodes. The bad nematodes are root feeding nematodes, and those are the guys that will go in and start attacking the roots of your plants and stuff. The good guys, which are the rest of them basically, are bacteria feeders, fungal feeders. There's switchers. Those guys are a little bit sketchy because they can go from eating fungal, but if conditions get bad, they're going to switch over to the roots and then become a problem. There's predatory nematodes, which are the real big guys, and then there's omnivore nematodes. Predator nematodes are the ones that are going to eat the root feeding nematodes. So yeah, nematodes are good. You do want to keep them. If nematodes are a problem in your area, then chances are you just need the predator of that, and the answer to that is make compost. So check out my last couple videos on how to make compost. This one is from Natalia Setskoff. Maybe. Hopefully I got that right. How tall would you allow your clover to grow to be still beneficial as a cover crop? Mine is now 18 inches and wonder if I should chop and drop it. It is just starting to push crimson flowers. It's beautiful. Yeah, crimson clover is awesome. In fact, I'll show you some right here. Right here, you can see one of the little crimson buds like it's a gang, crimson buds on this clover in my sweet potato bed, and you can see that the sweet potatoes are still above the clover. Now you can see also my sweet potatoes are being attacked by some sort of pest. I don't really know what it is. Oh, there's a little grasshopper on there. That's what it is. Look at him. Anyway, got him. I'm not too concerned with it because I'm still fixing the soil biology here. So this is the first year I've grown in here. I still haven't even applied compost to any of these beds yet. The only thing I've done is put down this cover crop. But once this clover starts growing above whatever I'm trying to eat in this bed, that's when I would trim it back. Because in that instance, it's a competition for sunlight, not a competition for nutrients or water or anything like that. Your ground cover is actually helping bring in more nutrients and more water and retaining more water than it would just by themselves. So that's my barrier. Whenever it starts out competing for sunlight, that's when I start cutting back. All right, y'all, that's it for this permaculture Q&A. Remember, if you have any submissions, then leave them down below in the comments with the hashtag permaculture Q&A at the beginning of it. If you need consultations, then hit the description down below. And I can't wait to see you guys June 8th at the East Texas Homesteaders Meetup group. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.